As I've already admitted, I'm now a fan of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, but I never watched any of the older shows growing up, so I got curious and decided to give the older pony generations a closer look, because as good as the current show is, you can't truly appreciate how far the series has come until you understand where it's been. G1. The original My Little Pony starts out with a ridiculously sugary theme song that tells us life is happy, everything's great, and nothing bad ever happens.
My little pony, isn't the world a lovely place? My little pony, everywhere you go, a smiling face.
I have to admit, the first time I tried to watch this, I turned it off right here. I mean, the theme song is basically telling us there's no conflict, which is one of the basic elements of any story. But once you do make it past the opening credits, you'll notice at least 3 characters who seem kinda familiar. There's Twilight, who's able to teleport, Applejack, a silly pony who likes apples and doesn't wear a hat, and Firefly, who was the original inspiration for Rainbow Dash. Supposedly, Rainbow Dash was going to have the same name and color scheme as this character, but had to be redesigned and merged with the G3 character because they legally can't use the name Firefly anymore for the new series. Anyway, we see the ponies playing around for a bit, and holy shit, dragons! These are mean-looking sons of bitches too! So, now that the theme song lied to us and there is a plot, here's what's going on. The bad guy is named Tirak, who's basically the devil, and he wants to make night last forever. What does this have to do with the ponies? Absolutely nothing. No, really, he just wants to turn 4 of them into monsters and make them pull his chariot so he can show off what an evil badass he is. We also have Scorpion, a henchman who does all of Tirak's dirty work, but we get the sense that he's secretly a nice guy since he doesn't like to see anyone hurt or mistreated. And for some reason, foreshadowing, he's taking care of a baby dragon named Spike. Back in the Pony Kingdom, Firefly leaves and goes to the human world, yes, our world where ponies don't talk, and kidnaps a girl named Megan to help get their friends back. But Megan's all cool with being kidnapped, so she immediately befriends the ponies and calls Scorpion an evil bastard even after he saves her life and treats her politely. Anyway, they all go off, do a lot of singing, barf up a rainbow, kill Tirak, save their friends, and make Spike a main character. Okay, first of all, this reeks of being a low-budget 80s cartoon, but keep in mind when I say that, it's really not much worse than other Hasbro cartoons from the 80s like Transformers and G.I. Joe. It just suffers from a lot of the same issues those shows had. The animation is really iffy, the story has a lot of problems with its pacing, as some characters jump to conclusions way too quickly while other scenes drag on forever. The voice actors don't seem to have been given enough direction, especially at the beginning where about half the characters have the exact same cringe-inducing falsetto voice. And even though the musical numbers do kinda get better after this, there are a number of songs that seem to have the opposite tone of the scenes that they're in. Also, after watching a few other episodes, it seems to me that none of the other villains on the show were ever as cool as Tirak, and it also looks like Spike and Megan were the only characters who remain consistent throughout the series. But even with all that in mind, the show is surprisingly watchable. It's definitely for kids only, but it's better than I gave it credit for, and I can't help but feel that if I'd given this more of a fair chance when I was younger, I probably would have enjoyed it. My Little Pony Tales. The second generation show, My Little Pony Tales, is where the real pain begins. And yes, as far as the animation is concerned, I'm counting this as G2. Most My Little Pony fans will point out that this is technically a spin-off of G1, even though it has nothing to do with the original show, and mysteriously the G2 universe doesn't actually exist. This is mainly in reference to the toy line. I'm assuming the toys for My Little Pony Tales were made in the same style as G1, though according to Wikipedia, they were never available in the United States. The official G2 toy line came out much later, with new characters in a new setting, but it never got its own TV series. Anyway, I'll admit that I skipped over the original show because the Strictly for Girls marketing campaign just didn't appeal to me, but My Little Pony Tales is genuinely awful. I tried watching several episodes, and even in the interest of researching the show for a review, I could never make it all the way to the end. Gone are the medieval fantasy setting, the human characters, and any sense of a larger conflict. Instead, this version seems to be set in a modern-day town where we see the characters go about their daily lives, and that's about it. In the episode Just for Kicks, a character named Starlight gets a crush on the star athlete named Ace. Ace treats her like shit the entire time, and she sings a song about how they'd make the perfect pair. Yeah, of course they're perfect for each other, because he's an asshole and she's too stupid to live. What? Seriously? Come on, am I really supposed to believe this attraction is actually based on anything other than her wanting to get a pony ride?
Hint, hint.
Anyway, despite the show debuting in 1992, the animation and voice acting are somehow worse than the original show. The characters are just shallow, and the singing is unbearable. It really feels like nobody making this show gave a crap, and it's hard to imagine how it could get much worse. Until G3. The G3 and 3.5 universes exist as a series of short features that went straight to video. On the plus side, the animation does look better, and the ponies actually act like ponies again, as opposed to whatever the hell My Little Pony Tales was trying to accomplish. We also meet a few more characters who would later be redesigned for Friendship is Magic, including Pinkie Pie, Rarity, Sweetie Belle, Scootaloo, Cheery Lee, and as I mentioned before, Rainbow Dash. And a few of the characters are even played by the G4 voice actresses.
Rainbow Dash wants to plant purple flowers next to the red flowers. It's just not right. Rainbow Dash! Not now, Pinkie Pie. But Rainbow Dash! Oh, Pinkie Pie, it's so horrible I can't even say the word.
Pinkie Pie, stop that right now. It's time to prepare for the gala, and I refuse to let you put on your new dress if you're all sweaty.
But when you bumped me, the top of my cake fell into the middle of your rainbow.
Don't believe the great and powerful Trixie? Well then, I hereby challenge you, Pony Villians. Anything you can do, I can do better.
Green? Greener? Whose float is the greenest?
No! Green hair! Not green hair! Oh, such an awful, awful color!
Unfortunately, that's about the only good thing I can say about this series. Okay, if you must know, let's look at Princess Promenade for an example. And I swear, it took me 4 separate tries just to make it through the whole thing. In this story, the ponies are putting together a parade when one of the characters, named Wisteria, is suddenly named as Ponyville's first ever princess for some contrived reason. She likes the idea of being a princess, but soon feels awkward because all of her friends start treating her differently because of her title. And by the way, they don't actually treat her any differently except by calling her a princess. Her solution? Make everyone a princess, with the final message that all little girls watching this are princesses themselves. I'm not even going to criticize the message here for being too stupid and childish. No, my real problem with this is that they completely ignore any potential for a real moral about friendship that might actually be helpful for kids. It's not like they couldn't do it either. They're practically screaming for a real message here as Wisteria goes on about being herself and insisting that her friends not treat her any differently, even though again, they don't. Otherwise, the pacing here is painfully slow, the dialogue often feels out of place, and there's no real conflict whatsoever. Remember what I said about G1 and how I originally turned away because the opening theme song said nothing bad ever happens? This is what I was talking about. This is exactly the type of thing I was afraid I would see. This is what happens when you try to make a story without conflict. Oh, stuff happens, but it's never really good or bad. It's just something to keep your kids' attention for an hour. Speaking of which, is it just me, or does it seem like with each new generation, these shows are aiming at a younger and younger audience? The original show had a sense of adventure to it, and even some danger at times, and it actually holds up a lot better today than you might expect. My Little Pony Tales was aimed at grade schoolers under the age of 7, but enjoyed by no one, and the G3 movies are the equivalent of waving something shiny in front of a toddler. So if you find yourself wondering just why so many people are making such a big deal about Friendship is Magic, this is why! When you really look at the direction this franchise has taken over the years, it's kind of amazing that it's still around at all. The fact that Friendship is Magic turned out to be as good as it is, appealing to such a broad audience, is nothing short of a miracle.
Call upon the sea ponies when you're in distress.
Whoa!
Helpful as can be, ponies simply sing no less or less. If you find your cast adrift, they haven't got it all. Down upon the sea ponies, they'll see you to shore. Shooby-doo, shoop-shoopy-doo.
It's an ugly thing! A horrible, disgraceful, horrible, ugly thing!